to add his name to the list of being a presenter, and he's going to talk about lithium batteries. Thank you, Hal. Come aboard. Now,
Well, first off, I am not an expert on batteries in general, and specific lithium batteries. I'm only going to share with you information that I have gleaned. And second, I've seen some emails that said, we need a presentation on this, or we need a presentation on that. Why don't you go research this or that and come back and tell us about what you found, which would be a much more effective way. Right, Steve?
that's right.
Okay. And most of you know that my wife and I have a few farm animals on our property, and I went and got a new rooster the other day, brought the new rooster onto the property, and took care of all of the chickens the first day. And then the next day, that rooster took care of all the chickens again. Well, we've got some ducks and geese and turkeys and peacocks, and the third day, the rooster took care of all of them.
Yeah.
And so, on the next day, I go out, and the rooster's laying out in the field, and there's some buzzards flying overhead. And I go over to look at the rooster to see if it's dead, and eye pops open, he says, "I'm waiting for them to land."
All right.
Okay. I gave a presentation a few years ago, and this is the first part of this presentation is what I did then. Now, this was actually prompted, were you with Phoenix Fire when they had that big storage battery fire out in Surprise?
Maybe.
The nearest hazmat unit was Peoria, and that fire almost killed a Surprise fire department crew when they opened the door. When they opened the door to that place, and by the way, APS called them. APS knew what was in that container. They had learned a lot of stuff since then, but it was full of lithium batteries, because one of the things that APS is doing, and I'm not sure if Salt River's doing it, but they're building these, I can't remember the proper terminology, but they're big battery storage units to kind of peak shave on their system that helps them out. And it's full of lithium batteries, and all of the batteries in that particular arrangement were made by LG. And if you've done, I don't know if you've seen anything about lithium batteries over the last few years, but LG batteries are some of the miscreants with things that have gone bad. And by the way, that's what GM uses in the Volt. So, but there's, let's go ahead, but that's what prompted me to do this research a few years ago. All right, I got to turn my, basically, currently, these are the battery types that are available. We're all familiar with lead acid deep cycle. AGM and gel are really lead acid, same technology. And the difference between a deep cycle battery and a non-deep cycle battery is there's extra space in the bottom of the box for it to collect debris, for lack of a better term. And so they last a little longer. They can take more discharge and charging cycles. And then the bottom of that list is lithium ion, and there's several different technologies that were developed for lithium ion batteries. So let's talk about the lead acid. Basically, it's the flooded lead and acid. Typically, it's sulfuric acid. And there was a time, I remember going down to Checker Auto years ago and buying a battery, and you got the battery, and you got this jug that went with it. And the jug that went with it was the acid that you added to the battery. The lead acid is the least expensive batteries that we have available to us. And by the way, it's the only type of battery that you should use in your vehicle to start, because it has the cranking amps capable of turning over the motor. And we'll talk a little bit more when we get to lithium on that. And then AGM really is the same technology, just the innards are a little different using a glass nap. But there's no need to replace water, where in the, here you need to, typically you had to make sure the water levels were correct, and back in the day, the batteries weren't sealed, so you could easily check that. It's got good vibration characteristics, that's why you use them on RVs, because they're bouncing around a lot. And they cost about 50% to 100% more than regular lead acid. And then gel batteries then is the next step up from that, but it's still a lead acid technology. And if you notice on all three of these, that bottom line, you can only discharge them to about 50%. And all of these, let me back up. Let me ask you a question on how you check the state of charge on a battery. On these three technologies, the lead acid, how do you check the state of charge?
Check the voltage.
You check the voltage.
They have those things that float. You put,
Hydrometer for the lead acid.
yeah, there's so many
Yeah, but-
balls will float and.
Yeah, but that's to make sure your acid is the right viscosity.
And they don't work well for gel batteries.
No, you can't use them for gel or
But,
AGM.
okay, there's a point here. It's important as we go on. You check the state of charge with a voltmeter, correct? And when a lead acid technology battery discharges, it discharges in a linear fashion. So it's easy to check the state of charge with the voltage. So if you pick up a lead acid battery, I got one in my garage that's on a charger, or a permanent trickle charge, and if it's at 13.4, I know I'm good. If it's down at 12.0, something bad has happened and I need to check it. So we all know that, correct?
Right.
All right. Let's go to lithium ion. Now there's, all of these letters in that top line are different chemistries for lithium battery. I'm not going to go into that because pretty much the industry generally has gone to lithium iron phosphate. It also has cobalt and a few other minerals in it, which makes them expensive, but the availability of the minerals is limited on where you can get them in the world. You know where the major cobalt deposits in the world are?
China?
Where?
Africa.
The Congo.
Africa or China.
Yeah. And so, but by the way, the US has more lithium mineral deposits than any other country in total than the rest of the world. We just have not accessed them. All right. There's no water to worry about. Vibration can be a problem, and I'll talk about that a little bit with one particular battery manufacturer. And they cost about 100% more than the lead acid. Although that is changing significantly, and I'll show you some of that. And the neat thing about lithium ion, you can draw them down to about 3% of their total charge. Yes?
You'll probably cover this, but another great thing about that is the voltage is mostly linear and stable and consistent all the way out till it finally drops off. You don't have the drop down like you would a lead acid at a constant fall off rate.
He's taking away my thunder.
I thought you would cover that, I'm sorry.
Okay. And so that, and we'll talk about that. So this is what those letters mean, and it's not important necessarily, other than the pretty much the industry has for the storage batteries that we're looking for, pretty much standardized on lithium iron phosphate. Now, when it comes to storage systems, NFPA has a standard on storage systems, so all of that, those APS facilities that we're going to start popping up around the state are going to, they're going to have to meet this particular standard. And I've got friends that are on this committee and got some good information from them. You should see some of the papers that
Is
I
that
can access.
standard designed to make it safe because of the disasters when they're all closely located together and they go into thermal runaway, or for something?
Well, that's part of it, and I'll talk about that thermal runaway thing here in just a second. But yes, this provides ventilation requirements, how they're located, some of the detection techniques and other things that go into these. Because what you got is a shipping container basically, and you got racks, equipment racks, and these batteries are in racks. They're rack batteries, and so they're closely spaced together. And the problem they had in Surprise was it was all interior access to those. They've since redesigned that whole thing so the access to the individual batteries are from doors on the exterior, not from the interior. There's sensors that determine if there's issues, ventilation requirements. One of the other things, it also addresses fire protection, because that insulation in Surprise, they thought fire sprinklers would be a good idea, and that's what almost killed the firefighters. Is the kind of fire protection they put in there. So, and it wasn't fire sprinklers, it was a clean agent.
Plus the gas that they put off when they burn is very toxic.
Yeah. Okay, and then, so, I'm gonna back up just a minute. Now, in the lithium batteries that we buy, that you see, where do you think they all come from?
China.
Mostly from China.
All of the cells, battery cells, come from China. There are some batteries that are actually assembled in the US.
Tesla.
Huh?
Tesla builds their own stuff.
But yes, they do. Battleborn, they assemble their own stuff. But the actual lithium cells themselves come from China. And they come in 3 different forms. They come in a cylinder, which is about the diameter of a D-sized battery, but a little taller. The Battleborn batteries, and let's see if I can pull up an image here in a little bit. The way they build theirs, they do it in packs. And these packs will have 25 batteries in a pack, and they're tack welded to zinc coated sheets, and then they tie them together on top, and there's like 4 of these packs in there. The other form that they come in is called prismatic. And it's basically a flat cell. It's got some thickness to it. By the way, all batteries, it doesn't matter what kind of battery it is, if it's in a cylinder, it's actually manufactured flat. That's how it works. You layer the different materials to be able to get that. And so with a cylinder, even the nickel cadmium batteries, then they roll them up then to get that cylinder. And then the third way the lithium batteries come is a pouch. It's actually got a Mylar bag. What the inside of that looks like, I'm not really sure, but these three types, it's important when you start looking at the various lithium ion batteries that are available to purchase. They come in, they'll be all the same capacity. You know, there's a 100 amp hour, but some of them are drastically different in size in their arrangement. Some are longer than others, some are wider than others, some are taller than others. A lot of times there's a lot of air inside of those boxes for one reason or another. But it also has to do with the type of cells that they get. And generally speaking, from what I've learned, is all of the cells come from China. Even the BMSs, the battery management systems, all come from China. So Battleborn and the others, they import that and then they assemble the batteries. So, here's what I've learned, because I've been doing a lot of research, because we got a new to us RV. And it came with a single battery, got a single solar cell on the roof, and I need to replace that battery, and I want to do something different, because we're going to be going to Quartzsite in January, and I need to be able to boondock for a couple of weeks. So, when you're talking about buying a lithium ion battery, here's some of the considerations that you need to make. Number one, who the manufacturer is, but does the BMS do these things? And generally speaking, every lithium battery that you buy that's used for recreation will do these things. It'll have a high temperature cutoff, maybe. It'll have a low temperature shutoff, because with lithium, one of the characteristics of lithium batteries is if you try to charge them when it's freezing, it will destroy the cells. You have to warm them up. And I bought some, they're Battleborn batteries, but it doesn't say Battleborn, it says Dragonfly on them. Dragonfly is actually the parent company of Battleborn. And it's got an extra terminal on top, and that's to connect it to the heater that's internal to the box.
They also just bought Dakota.
Yes, they did. And then one of the other things that the BMS does is it balances the cells. Now, remember I mentioned that like in the Battleborn batteries, got those various packs in there. Every battery will be made up of multiple battery packs. Not all of the cells in there will be exactly the same voltage. So BMS then monitors the ones that they can and balances that as best they can for the discharge.
Hal, on the BMS considerations, if I have no clue about this, and I'm evaluating two different batteries, if I look up the specs, assuming that it's not Temu and they've actually got specs or something like that, those things are typically in the specs for the battery?
Yes.
Oh, good.
And sometimes these things will occur automatically and reset. Yes.
I don't know, this might be kind of controversial, but there's a guy on the web, YouTube, Will Prouse.
You'll see him in a minute.
Oh, all right. He's a very good resource for finding all that stuff out.
And then some of these things that you can take care of outside of the battery, doesn't necessarily have to be in the BMS. For example, high current cutoff. What do you think is used for a high current?
Fuse.
A fuse.
If it's a good battery.
Well, we'll talk about that too. And then some sort of charge discharge meter, okay? Here's what the voltage characteristics of a lithium ion battery looks like, what Bruce was talking about. So what does it take to tell you, what can you measure that tells you what your state of charge is.
Shunt.
You have to use a watt meter of some sort to, as it goes through, how many watts it goes out.
You cannot use a voltmeter
No?
because you don't know if you're, yeah, you can't see it. You don't know if you're here, you don't know if you're here when you put a voltmeter on it, because you're gonna measure pretty much the same. And then when it loses its charge, it falls off a cliff.
If you've ever used a battery operated drill, it just stops.
Yes, exactly. You've all had that experience.
Yeah, working fine until it does.
Okay, what Jim was talking about, at Quartz Fest,
Yeah,
some of the things that they give away at the happy hour,
yeah.
what was one of those things that they gave away at happy hour? Then I wondered what the heck that
Shunt.
is, and it's a shunt.
Yeah.
So you put
I
a,
won one. And it's in one of my battery boxes.
where you put the shunt is on the negative side of the battery. And Victron makes what's called a smart shunt that's Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So you can put that on the discharge side of the battery, so you can tell through the app if it's charging or if it's discharging, and what the state of charge is. So it tells you where you are on here.
It's very important, and these new batteries have them incorporated, some batteries have them incorporated in the battery now with Bluetooth. I have one battery like that. I wish the other one was like that.
Well, let me show you. There's Will.
There's that little geek.
I just bought this battery,
Yep, Eagle really is a good brand.
and it's, what's kind of cool about it, see on top, it actually has a meter on the top,
Yeah.
but it's also got Bluetooth. So I can monitor that from wherever it is. I don't have to be right on top of it, or go look at another meter.
I love that Bluetooth app that I've got on that one battery I have.
And
It's
by-
amazing, I can keep track of it.
And by the way, how many have Jackeries? Did you know that Jackery has an app?
Yeah, I use it.
Not for my old Jackery, the newer ones do.
I learned about that last January. It's got an app. My Honda generator has an app. So, but yeah, this is, yeah.
Can I ask how much is that, since it doesn't show on there?
Sure, you can't read it.
$220.
Well, that's what the current price is. No, wait a minute. No, I can go on there and look and see how much. I didn't pay that much.
Yeah, it changes all the time.
Why, it's not
But hey, Hal, it says right there, I can't read it.
It says $69.99.
No,
That's
it's
not.
219, there it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I paid less than that. And if you go put that on order, it's, right now they're, yeah, what? Usually it says on when it's available, but, it was like ended August, last time I looked, which means that they're still coming from China. I haven't really tried this battery yet, but this is one of the examples. But it's one of them that Will actually opened up. And if you haven't checked this guy out, he actually will do all of the overcurrent testing, temperature testing, capacity testing, and see how close what they say on the side of the box on how much capacity it has. In some cases, it's 90%, some cases it's 105%, depending on the manufacturer. He also cuts them open and looks at the battery packs themselves, looks at the wiring, looks how it's connected, and by the way, Battleborn is suing him.
He's not a fan of Battleborn right now.
I found some videos where he was a fan of Battleborn.
Yeah, he used to be.
Yeah, but he's no longer a fan of Battleborn because there's a design flaw that gets exacerbated with vibration. And it's how the terminals are connected. So, whatever I would recommend if you got storage batteries, to migrate to lithium batteries. There's a lot of advantages to it. You get twice the capacity that you do from a lead acid, because you can draw them down to almost zero, where the lead acid, you can only go 50%. So you automatically get twice the capacity with lithium from lead acid.
And they're lighter.
And they're lighter.
Much lighter.
I was gonna bring some today, but I knew that there was a long walk from the parking lot. And I wasn't gonna carry those from the parking lot.
So Hal, aren't there also, I think I read somewhere, I don't remember what brand, but some of them that have heaters inside so they
Yep.
can charge below freezing?
Yes, that's part of the thing that the BMS will do. There are temperature sensors. There's a low temperature sensor typically and a high temperature sensor, and there may be more than one high temperature sensor. But the low temperature sensor, if it senses below freezing temperatures, it will either prevent any charging or it will engage a heater to bring the temperature up so that you can charge it. So I said the Dragonfly batteries I've got has a third terminal on top that's what that's for, and connect it to heat it. Anyway, whatever you do, check him out, because he opens them up and he makes recommendations. You go to his website, he's got a whole website where he recommends, and he talks about the price, and he's finding stuff all the time that are good batteries for a relatively inexpensive price. And all of these different batteries that you see here, you start opening them up, some of them, they're all like 3 or 4 of those are identical on the inside.
Different stickers on the outside.
Yeah. Like they're coming out of the same factory.
Like Chinese radios.
Yeah.
Do-it-yourself solar power with Will Pros.
Yes.
Now, are you gonna talk about charging them? Because like my motorhome, has a converter charger and so forth, but I don't think it'll do lithium.
What I would suggest you do, and I've done this, they do require a different charging protocol. The lithium ion batteries requires the initial charge is like 14.1 volts. And if you have a charger that has a lithium option, that's what that does. And it monitors that, and it monitors where it is in the state of charge as well. But if look at your converter, the previous trailer I had, I changed out the converter, and I didn't change it out with the lithium option on it. Some of the newer converters in the RVs will have, it will automatically detect the type of battery you have. If you look at just the off-the-shelf battery chargers, you'll see 3 settings. You'll see lead acid, you'll see AGM, and then you'll see lithium. The converter that I've got in the new to us trailer, I opened it up. I gotta take a panel off to get to it, but there's a dip switch to switch it to lithium.
Some of the newer controllers, they have that. And like you said, some are automatic.
Right. Yeah, some of them are automatic, but you need to check it. And the way you do is you take the model number of your converter, go to that manufacturer, and it'll tell you whether it's lithium capable or not.
But if you have an older one that was probably designed in the era of lead acid batteries, like I've got some old car battery chargers, they're no go for lithium, they don't have that
Exactly.
option.
Exactly.
I understand you can hurt a lithium battery by using an old lead acid charger.
What happens is you're not gonna hurt it.
Over time.
You won't hurt it, but what will happen is you won't be able to charge it to its full capacity. Because what happens is, if we go back,
Isn't the lead acid like 13.6 or 13.8 or something?
if you go back, if you go back to this chart, the old charger, as soon as it gets to 13 volts, look at where you are. You might be at 25%. That's all it's gonna charge to, because it's reading that voltage. It's not that you're gonna hurt the battery, you just won't ever charge it to its full capacity.
And eventually you won't be able to, even if you get a lithium charger. Unless,
Every battery has a life. Don't let anybody kid you. Every battery has a life. And by the way, a lead acid battery in your vehicle in Arizona, how long does it last?
Not as long.
5 years. Try 2.
14 months, apparently.
Yes.
You just bought one,
Which Costco had a great deal for a few years, and now since taken that deal away. Because I used to pull my batteries out every 2 years, take them back to Costco, and they would replace them. And all I had to pay was a core charge.
What about the AGM batteries? What's their years?
Pretty much the same.
Mine got 6 years out of them
Well,
on my truck, my diesel.
but you're also up here versus down in the valley.
True.
And the AGM batteries I've got on my RV, they've lasted me 5 years. And they're still in good shape. Yeah, the AGM do last a little longer, but they're not good for your vehicle.
Not for a start battery.
Not for a start battery, because you need the cranking gas.
Well, I got two of mine. Lithium batteries have a lifespan of about 10 years too.
Well, it's not the years,
6,000.
sorry, the number of cycles.
Discharge cycles, yeah.
And depending on the type of cell, it could be anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 cycles or up to 10,000 cycles, depending on the cells.
And how high you charge them too, isn't it? But if
Mm,
you charge it
It's like a full
100%,
discharge, charge discharge
Like
cycle.
my laptop
This is-
says, if I do the charging thing, it says if I only let it charge to 80%, it'll last longer than if I let it charge to 100%, so there's something there.
Well, there's still some old wives' tales and myths from nickel cadmium batteries and zinc batteries, where they had a memory. The lithium batteries don't have that issue. Lead acid batteries don't have that issue. So,
What are those optimum batteries? What are they made of?
that, I think they're AGM, but I don't know for sure.
I tried them on my truck, they didn't last nothing, the red dot ones.
Yeah. So, anyway, good question, thank you. But, any other questions?
Oh,
Yes.
I noticed that sometimes the batteries or lithium batteries, they expand, they kind of load up. Somebody said they're getting bad and there's gas in there.
If you're buying quality, if you're getting quality lithium cells, you shouldn't have that
Like a
problem.
cell
But that is a symptom of degradation on those batteries, and you need to get rid of them. And that's pretty much the case with any battery.
It swells up.
That's mostly for lithium battery, lithium ion. LFPs don't really have as much of a problem with that as I get it.
Well, I'm gonna back up a little bit. There's been a lot of myths related to lithium batteries. And typically, by the way, every one of you are carrying at least one lithium battery with you, if not more. Your watch, your radio, your phone.
Key fob.
Lithium batteries are a part of our society. And we really learned where the problems with lithium are with Samsung, with the Note 7.
Yeah.
Where they start, they'd catch on fire in your pocket.
Yeah, my son's phone caught on fire.
Yeah. And so And what happens is, well, lithium is a combustible metal. Do you know what combustible metals are? Which metals are considered combustible metals?
Magnesium.
Titanium?
Magnesium, sodium,
Phosphorus.
lithium, titanium, zirconium, and aluminum. You put those in a powder form, and do you know what temperatures they burn at? Anywhere from about 4,000 degrees to about 8,000 degrees, depending on the material. It looks like a welder's rod. And I learned about zirconium because there's a company in Mesa called Special Devices Incorporated. Did you ever hear about them? If you're in Mesa and you're driving on the 202, right about Greenfield, on the south side of the 202, on top of the hill, you'll see some bunkers and some industrial buildings. That's Special Devices Incorporated, or SDI. Do you know what they make? Any idea?
Special devices.
Door breathers mainly,
Huh?
door breathers, mainly?
No.
Door breathers.
No.
Okay. Somebody-
That might be on the other side of the road where they make the missiles. The missile rocket,
Probably
the
the-
missile rocket motors are on
Do
the
they
other
have
side of the
all those
road.
walls, you seen all those walls with the holes in them? North side of the school? Okay. Different places.
SDI is a contractor for TRW.
Airbags.
And do you know what TRW makes in South Mesa, Southeast Mesa?
Money.
Yes, they do.
Satellite stuff?
No. You're looking at it every time you drive your vehicle. It's in your steering wheel.
Yeah, the airbag.
The airbags.
Explosives.
It's not an explosive, and TRW is very clear that it's not an explosion. It's a deflagration. Do you know the difference between an explosion and a deflagration?
Words.
No, it's got a very specific definition.
If you're sitting on one, it's not gonna matter much.
No, it's the speed of the sound wave. Or the shock wave. If the shock wave exceeds the speed of sound, it's an explosion. If it's slower than the speed of sound, it's a deflagration. But all that means is, if you experience a deflagration, you hear it and then you're dead. Or an explosion, you're dead before you hear it.
Still hurts.
It still hurts. But no, SDI, they make the initiators for the airbags. There's a little blasting cap. And if you've ever seen an airbag put together, the propellant is sodium azide. And they're down in Southeast Mesa, they've got a plant. They used to make them, they no longer make them because they were killing people with them, their own employees. But they have another contractor that presses the sodium azide into what look like washers. And depending on the type of airbag, who the vehicle manufacturer is, these washers are, the thickness and the diameter and the hole in the middle are all based upon a particular airbag design. And they'll stack those washers up, and in the middle of that hole that's in the middle, that's where the initiator goes. So when you get in an accident, you complete an electrical circuit, it fires the initiator, which then causes the sodium azide to combust. Yeah.
So speaking of safety, and I'm not sure whether I missed it, but isn't there a big difference between LiFePO batteries as far as thermal runaway and lithium ion, the cheaper batteries? As I understand it, lithium ion is a higher energy density. That's why they use it in autos and things like that. But LiFePO has a lower energy density, but it's safer. And I don't know why that is.
It's the chemistry. Well, I'm not a chemist, and that comes into the chemistry of this, and that's part of, when lithium batteries started hitting the market, and we've had lithium batteries since the 90s. when they started coming on the market, they were learning this chemistry on what was good. And so, you know, we had a fire a couple of months ago, right down the street from my house. The guy bought an electric bicycle and he was charging his battery inside the house and it started smoking. So he grabbed it real quick and took it outside and let it finish its business outside, so it didn't take the house down. But what happens is these cells become sympathetic to each other. If one of them, if there's a flaw in that cell, it'll start shorting and going to start heating up. And the thermal runaway then is it heats up another one, another one, another one, and it just kind of cascades
So
from there.
the message to us as hams for battery, or as someone who has an RV, if you're gonna put it in that chamber on the side of your RV, and you don't wanna have a lithium ion, you wanna have a LiFePro battery there because it's safer, right?
Yes.
Generally speaking, yes.
The lithium
But
ion.
you want a good one.
Yeah.
And the construction of those is important. And it's important, when you go to Will's YouTube page, you go to he goes through the testing characteristics and where these batteries get into trouble and where the overheating comes in is if they draw them down too fast, and he tests that. Well, it's the overcurrent, but it's also the overwattage. And so,
The lithium ion batteries also produce their own oxygen, you can't put them out.
no, what happens is, going back to the combustible metal,
Hold on to release it.
there's, when they burn so hot that they disassociate water. So it's not that they don't create their own oxygen because there's not an oxidizer in there. Although some of the materials could be an oxidizer. But what happens is, one of the reasons you don't use water is it disassociates the oxygen from the hydrogen you get at the water, because there's more available oxygen in water than there is in the air. Bruce, you got a comment?
Oh, it's a quick comment, but it doesn't apply to this discussion, so go ahead.
Yes.
You were gonna mention something about sodium batteries?
Oh, there's two other technologies out there. And I'm gonna tell you about a project I had when I worked in New York. My office was in Albany, and we did a little bit of work with General Electric. And if you're old enough to remember where General Electric was headquartered, anybody remember? Schenectady, New York, which was right down the road from Albany. And they had the old factory campus, and they had a building that they were putting in a new process. And I got involved with a portion of that, where they're building an office complex inside this old manufacturing building. I got a chance to look at some of the materials that they had in that building, because I needed that information. They had bulk supplies of aluminum powder. At the time, they were working on a aluminum ion battery, but that was 15 years ago. They're no longer doing that from what research I've been able to do. But there is a company working on aluminum ion. And if you go on the YouTube and you do a search for aluminum ion, you'll find some people saying, oh no, it's the greatest thing since pickled turnips. But it doesn't, they're not on the market yet. It's still in research. And the sodium ion, same thing. There's companies out there that are working on sodium ion batteries. Part of the problem they have is making sure the chemistry stays stable. And I suspect they'll work that out. And if they do, there's way more sodium available than there is lithium. Aluminum is probably one of the most available metals. still available. And did you know that one time aluminum was very rare and was worth more than gold? And I'll give you an example of that. Do you know what caps the Washington Monument? Look it up. I'm not gonna let you know.
When they
Yeah.
built the Queen Mary, which is in Long Beach, where I lived for a long time, it has all these aluminum handrails, which you think, oh, no big deal, but when that was built, those were real expensive.
So, that's all I got.
Any last questions?
Yes.
So theoretically, how would you put out a lithium battery fire at your house?
You know,
You isolate it.
Take it outside.
If you can get it outside, which is not necessarily going to be an easy thing to do, but you smother it, which is not an easy thing to do. When Special Devices process their zirconium, they did it in an argon atmosphere. Argon is a noble gas and doesn't combust. And so when I went through this whole process with SDI, they called me up on the phone one day and said, we've got this water reactive that we're storing, and our insurance carrier was in doing an inspection last week. Can we take the fire sprinklers out of that room where we're storing this water reactive? I learned a long time before that to ask more questions. And I said, send me the MSDS for the material, because they didn't tell me what it was. Tell me how much you're storing, what the size of the container is, and how you're storing those containers. So they sent me the information. I found out it was powdered zirconium. It came packed in 1 liter high-density polyethylene bottles, packed in water. Remember, this is a water reactive. It's classified a water reactive.
Seems strange.
It's only a water reactive when it burns, because the temperature is so high that it disassociates the oxygen from the hydrogen. So then you get, to get it, and there's more available oxygen in the water than there is in the air. So when it grabs it rips the oxygen out of the molecule, what do you got left? And so you end up with hydrogen explosions. LA County Fire had a magnesium fire, a big magnesium fire years ago. And what's one of the things that you're taught as a firefighter when it comes to fire? More water is better, right?
Sure.
Surround and drown. And that's what LA County tried to do with this magnesium fire. Did you ever study that one, that fire?
No, never did.
But they were starting fires 2 miles away because of the hydrogen explosions was sending material that far away. They're trying to surround and drown it. So when I do this whole thing, at the time I was on the NFPA Hazardous Materials Committee. And so I called up my staff liaison and said, I've got this situation, do you know anybody that can help me out? He says, I got just the guy for you. He was the fire chief in Albany, Oregon. Anybody know where Albany, Oregon is?
It's in Oregon.
It's in Oregon.
it's a liberal state, trying to do my job.
It's the U.S. capital for production of titanium. So all of the titanium that they're gleaning from the Russian submarines and whatnot, it's shipped there and then they process it. They also process zirconium. And so I called him up and said, to introduce myself. And he and I became good friends later. But he wrote a CFO paper on fighting combustible metal fires, because he was on the combustible metals committee. And basically what it is, you let it burn itself out. You stand back and make sure no water gets into it. let it burn itself out. And eventually it crusts over and it smothers itself. Yes.
So the comment I was gonna make earlier, we just had a family vacation up to Calgary, Canada, flying a 737. My wife has an electric wheelchair with a lithium battery. So to check it through, they said, okay, pull the battery out and put it up in the overhead so the flight attendant can get to it if there's a problem and she can pitch it out the window, 20,000 feet. Where's she gonna pitch this thing?
Open the door.
Flush it down the toilet.
No, that's a, yeah. It's people who don't understand, creating regulations that don't understand the hazard. You remember, was it the 787 that Boeing had an issue with batteries?
Yes.
Why does an airplane of that size have a battery bank?
UPS for the flight controls.
Exactly. It's for the fail-safe on the flight controls. And you remember the 787, they had a battery issue? They were lithium batteries. Because they, I'm not sure what the fix was, but they took them out of service for a time until they got that fixed.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, on fire extinguishers, I know they have A, B, C fire extinguishers, but they have a class D fire extinguisher. D fire extinguishers are supposed to be for combustible metals.
That's usually D, isn't
Yeah, D is supposed to be
Yeah,
for
duh.
combustible metals.
it?
How does that work? Does that work?
Basically, no,
They don't work that good?
no. And you can't even cover them with sand. Guess what sand has in it?
Silicon.
Moisture.
Moisture, yeah.